Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyev cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaurvani Pracharine Nirvishesh Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatari. Okay. So can everybody hear me okay and see the screen okay? Okay, great. So before I begin, I'd like to ask for your blessings, prayers, permission to try to say something. Prayers in particular that, I'm not so sure what I'll say will be so relevant, or so helpful to anybody. But if you pray for me, maybe that can happen. So please pray that what I say might be of some use to everyone. And I would like to begin by thanking Bahari Prabhu and Indulekha Mataji for giving us shelter in Krishna consciousness, for nourishing us and for guiding us. And we learn so much from them. And I'm thankful to them for this chance to speak about some topics from Chaitanya Charitamrita today. Okay, so the title is Lessons from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. And before I actually tell you what the theme of the lessons is, I will ask a question. So this is just a nice picture of Gaur Leela, one of my favorite ones. And that one question that I would like to ask everyone is, what is one aspect or process of bhakti that is important to you? So you can just unmute and share, that one thing. It could be that you don't have one thing, but then you can say any one thing that is special or important to you, if it's not the most important.
Our philosophy.
Okay, the philosophy.
And devotee association too. Both are kind of helpful.
Okay, it's hard to choose. Okay, thank you, Prabhu. Thank you.
Yes, I was going to say the same, Prabhu. Mainly for me, associating.
Wonderful, thank you. Adigun Prabhu.
Hari Bolo Prabhuji, for me, the association gives me a lot of peace.
Gives you a lot of peace. Okay, wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you.
I can add, Prabhuji. For me, I think it's association and as well as the mentoring and guidance from our gurus.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you, Mataji. Okay, so far we've heard the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. We've heard Sadhu Sangha. We've heard the shelter of spiritual guides. We have heard, the positive effects of Sadhu Sangha.
Yeah, I was also thinking, Prabhuji, and I think like in this material world, we do things and we expect something in return, right? And I feel bhakti is so tangible in that sense. We may or may not realize it, and the kind of honesty, the kind of purity it brings in you as a transformation, I think I love that part of it. It's magical.
Wonderful, Prabhu. The power of the transformative power of bhakti. That is great. Yeah, the fact that it's so real. Not only is it perfect in philosophy, it's also very practical. So it's perfect in all ways. So I think you said it very nicely. Thank you for that point, Prabhu. All right. Anybody else?
In the chat, Rashmi Mataji mentioned
Oh, sorry, I can't see the chat, Prabhu. If you wouldn't mind
chanting.
just reading.
She was just saying.
Chanting. Okay. Very
Yeah,
nice.
chanting the holy names. Yeah.
Thank you.
But Krish Prabhu said Kirtan.
Kirtan. Okay, wonderful. Chanting and congregational chanting. Very nice. Okay, so let's see what the acharyas have to say. So, so in the Nectar of Devotion, there are 64 items that Srila Rupa Goswami gives of devotional service. And so it's Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, translated as Nectar of Devotion by our Srila Prabhupada. And the first 10 items that Rupa Goswami mentions, they pertain to the spiritual master. That we should take shelter of a spiritual master, we should take initiation from a spiritual master, and we should follow the instructions of the spiritual master. These are the first items in these 10. And so these first 10 principles are like the primary regulative principles of bhakti. So they're not the regulative principles of human life, which is our four regulative principles that we follow: no intoxication, no meat eating, no gambling, no illicit sex. But this is regulative principles pertaining to bhakti. And then the next 10 are secondary regulative principles, and then 44 are then specific items. And so total there are 64 items. And out of these 64 items, other than taking shelter of the spiritual master, Rupa Goswami has highlighted 5 items that he considers the most important. So any guesses what those 5 are, or whoever knows, would you like to say? You can just say one, that's okay, and then others can also say.
Living in Dham.
Living in Dham, Mathuravas. Thank you, Prabhu.
Deity worship.
Deity worship, Ladu Gopal Prabhu, thank you very much. Murti,
Reading Srimad Bhagavatam.
Go ahead, Rup Raghunath Prabhu.
I was just thinking, reading Srimad Bhagavatam.
Yes, exactly, yeah. Bhagavad Shravan, reading, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. Thank you, Prabhu.
From D, I always consider deity worship and diet, prasadam.
Okay. Yeah, actually, it's a part of deity worship. So you're spot on. You offer bhoga to the deity to serve the deity, and then you take the mercy of the deity as prasadam. So that'll fall into the deity worship item. Perfect. Thank you, Prabhu. Any other?
Chanting of the holy names.
Chanting of the holy
Association
names.
of devotees. Yeah.
And Sadhu Sangha. Thank you, Rashmi. Thank you very much. Okay, so this is the list. So according to Srila Rupa Goswami, these are the 5 most important items of the 64 that he has highlighted for us. Sadhu Sangha, association with devotees; Nam Kirtan, congregational chanting of the holy names of the Lord; Bhagavad Shravan, hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam; Mathuravas, residing in a holy place like Mathura or Vrindavan; and Srimurti, Shraddhai Sevan, worshipping the deity with faith. So now the whole idea of today's discussion is, I thought that we can relate each of these 5 items plus the taking shelter of the spiritual master that we spoke about to devotees in the Chaitanya Charitamrita or pastimes in Gaur Leela, so that we can just kind of connect with each of these processes better when we hear about devotees and their pastimes concerning these processes. And maybe we might feel more inspired to go more deeply into these processes by hearing about those examples from Gaur Leela. So that's the idea for today, basically. And so again, to remind you, so we'll talk about accepting shelter of the spiritual master, and then we'll talk about each of these 5 items one by one. with examples from Gaur Leela. So let's start with this one, accepting shelter of the spiritual master, since it's first in the 64 items anyway. So there is the example in Chaitanya Charitamrita of Srila Madhavendra Puri and Ishwar Puri. And you might have heard the story. So Madhavendra Puri was kind of the first devotee in our Guru Parampara who exhibited the ecstatic symptoms that Mahaprabhu later came and taught to the world. He was the first person in the line to exhibit those symptoms, very confidential. This is symptoms of separation from Krishna in the mood of the gopis. And he had two disciples. He had a disciple called Ishwar Puri, and he had another disciple who was not so famous or infamous. Does anybody know who that disciple was? So we just try to keep it a little interactive just to be engaged more.
Ramananda Puri?
Ramachandra Puri, yeah. Exactly.
Ramachandra Puri, yeah.
Yes, thank you. So there were two disciples. One was glorious and the other was infamous. Srila Ishwar Puri was glorious because, well, actually, first we'll talk about why Ramachandra Puri was inglorious or infamous. So his spiritual master was Madhavendra Puri, was in his final days, and he was lying on his bed to depart this world, and he was feeling intense separation from Krishna, and he was saying, Krishna, Krishna, where are you? I have not achieved the Lord of my life. I'm suffering. He was expressing those sentiments. And at that time, who was caring for him? It was Ramachandra Puri. And Ramachandra Puri began to instruct his spiritual master. He began to say, why are you lamenting? Don't you know about Brahman? It all started with, in his mind, he's trying to console his spiritual master, but the seed of that anartha was there, that the seed of offense to the spiritual master was there, that he thought he knew better than his guru. And so he began to say, don't you know about Brahman? Brahmabhuta prasannatma na shochati na kankshati. You should be peaceful. One who has attained Brahman is never hankering or lamenting. So why are you hankering so much? Why are you saying, I have not achieved and I'm so unsatisfied and so forth. And Madhavendra Puri was, of course, infuriated, and he asked Ramachandra Puri to get out from the room. And he said, first of all, I have so many problems. I cannot achieve the Lord of my life. That's his emotion. It's not that these devotees do not have Krishna. They carry Krishna in their hearts. But it is also this mood of separation, like Srimati Radharani has, that these devotees don't feel that they have achieved Krishna. Even if Krishna is in front of them, they still feel separation from Krishna. So that's kind of the mood of highest ecstasy, this mood of separation from Krishna. And this is the mood of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is the mood of the gopis of Vrindavan. And so Madhavendra Puri said, I am already so unhappy not having achieved the Lord of my life. And then on top of this, this rascal has come to teach me about Brahman. So just get out from here. And then he called for Ishwar Puri. So Srila Ishwar Puri came. And so Srila Ishwar Puri was a model disciple. He served his spiritual master very humbly. He would clean the stool and urine of his spiritual master. He would recite verses for him. He would chant for him to pacify his feelings of intense separation. And basically, he gave him intense pleasure. He pleased him perfectly. And so Madhavendra Puri said to him, all I can say is may Krishna bless you to achieve the perfection of life. And that's what happened to Ishwar Puri. So he achieved love of Godhead. Whereas, does anybody know what happened to Ramachandra Puri? So he gradually fell down, because after he criticized Madhavendra Puri, he didn't stop there. He actually, so, he started small. So he criticized his spiritual master, and then he took the next step. Then he criticized the Lord himself. So he went to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, where he was staying in Jagannath Puri. I believe this was in his room at the Gambhira. And there was some ants in his room, and he started criticizing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Oh, a sannyasi should not eat sweets. There are ants here, which means that you have been eating a lot of sweets. And of course, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was a model devotee, and so he humbly accepted as a perfect Vaishnava would, because Ramachandra Chandrapuri was his senior in disciplic, in age and according to the disciplic rank. And so he accepted, of course. Then Ramachandra Puri became a critic of all the devotees of Mahaprabhu. He would feed them prasadam, then he would criticize them for eating too much prasadam, and so forth. And so he basically fell to the position of a dry speculator. He lost all his ecstatic feelings of bhakti, and he just became a mundane speculator. So that's the first pastime that we discussed here, pertaining to how to accept the shelter of a spiritual master in a proper way. And we would like to follow in the footsteps of Ishwar Puri, and we would like to not follow in the footstep of Ramachandra Puri. So yeah, it's a very illustrative pastime, and Madhavendra Puri, the key point is that he bestowed upon his disciple who pleased him the highest thing that he had in his heart, which was the love of Godhead. So yeah, one should have this mood of humble submission to the spiritual master. One should follow the instruction. Srila Prabhupada once said, sincerity means to follow the instructions of the spiritual master, no matter how big or small. And on the lighter side, because how Srila Prabhupada would always say to his disciples, kindly cooperate with me, kindly help me to spread the Krishna consciousness movement. And he would also say that to the guests who came to visit. And kindly cooperate with me, friends, life members. And so once, a devotee asked Srila Prabhupada, what does it mean, Srila Prabhupada, to cooperate with me? And Srila Prabhupada said, it means they should do what I say. So basically, that's what we do with the spiritual master. We, once we are allowed to test the spiritual master before we take shelter of him. We're allowed to gauge and then identify a spiritual master whom we can submit to, and then after that we are just our faith is already qualified, and then we should have that humble mood of submission to the spiritual master. And that's the key to success in life. In fact, there's a story. Giriraj Maharaj once asked Tamal Krishna Maharaj, what is the secret to success? Or somehow it came up, what is the secret to success in spiritual life? And Tamal Krishna Maharaj said, there are two things. One is chanting the holy name, and second is really pleasing the spiritual master. So if we please the spiritual master, we please the holy name, that will guarantee all success in spiritual life. So, so now let's move on to the next item. So Rashmi had mentioned sadhu sangha, associating with devotees. So let's look at some examples of sadhu sangha. So first of all, what is sadhu sangha? At one level, sadhu sangha can simply mean we are associating with devotees. We are in the presence of devotees. Even if it's meeting a devotee for a meal, we are associating with them. And there's something very magical about sadhu sangha, that as soon as we begin to associate with devotees, we start to feel, I don't know, something special. I'm sure we've all had this experience when we meet friends who are devotees, or we walk into a room with devotees. We feel a different energy, and that is instantaneous. And even if, and I'm not recommending this, but even if we are not talking about Krishna, even then, even if we're meeting a devotee for lunch, let's say, and we are talking about something neutral, even then we feel that energy. So it's like a free ticket for upliftment, associating with devotees, being in the presence of devotees. But it is recommended that, a higher level, a deeper level of association is to hear from devotees and to serve them. And in this way, we can really enter more deeply into sadhu sangha. And there are so many examples of sadhu sangha in Gaur Leela, in the life of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his devotees. We have the examples of Narottam Das Thakur, Srinivasacharya, Shamananda Pandit. All these devotees used to, they were so thick, they were so intimate, and they were together hearing from Srila Jiva Goswami the instructions on confidential devotional service, and then they traveled together to take all the books of the six Goswamis throughout Bengal. And in this way, together they associated, they preached the holy name, they preached Krishna consciousness, and talked about Krishna consciousness. And so in this way, they really, relish sadhu sangha. And there are many other examples of sadhu sangha, of serving devotees very humbly. There is the example of Jagai and Madhai. So who knows how Jagai and Madhai served the devotees? We won't talk about, in the interest of time, we won't talk about the past time, but we'll talk about what happened after the initial, when they received the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu. After that, how did they atone for their previous sinful activities? Would anybody like to say? So I'll give a little hint. Someone has, Adi Govind Prabhu, you have your hand raised?
Yes, Prabhuji. So, if I am not wrong, I believe they were instructed to go to the ghats of Ganga and wash all the pilgrims' feet. Is that right?
Very close, yes, Prabhu. So they constructed a ghat basically there at the banks of the Ganges to serve the devotees in various ways. And so you can imagine, when you're living near a river bank, a river fulfills so many of our basic needs. And so they constructed this ghat where, devotees would come, but having seen, having witnessed and experienced the sinful activities of Jagai and Madhai, they would, spit on their face. They would pick up a stone, pick up rocks and hit them, you know, um, and hurl curses at them, say unkind things to them, and they would not retaliate. They would not retaliate. So when Madhai was the one who picked up the broken clay pot, and he had struck Nityananda Prabhu on his forehead, causing him to bleed. But the same Madhai now would pick up that rock that some other resident of Navdvip would have thrown at him. He would go and give it back to him and say, "I deserve much more. Please, please hit me again." And so, seeing this behavior, this humble behavior, the devotees' hearts would usually melt, and they would acknowledge their transformation. And so this was, they would constantly, they would be cleaning after the devotees. They would be cleaning this ghat. They would be offering sweet words of humble submission to the devotees. And in this way, they really won the hearts of the devotees. So when we do sadhu sangha, if we are really friendly with each other, we are humble with each other, we don't seek any glorification for ourselves, but we want to glorify the service of others. We hear from each other, thinking that, this Prabhu, this Mata, this devotee has something to offer that I can learn from. That's very nice, sadhu sangha. And of course, the friendships, as we know, friendships in Krishna consciousness are the deepest kinds of friendships because they're imbued, they're saturated, they're centered around Krishna. And when friendships are centered around Krishna, then they become all the more deep. So, so that's sadhu sangha. And there is a purport in the seventh canto, in the prayers of Prahlad Maharaj, where Srila Prabhupada says, it may be, my Guru Maharaj quotes it a lot, so I think it's 7.5.12. And it starts off with, everyone should be friendly for the service of the Lord. That's verbatim. And then I'm paraphrasing. No one should expect glorification for one's own service, but should rather glorify the service of others. And the idea is that in this way, we can avoid envy between devotees. Because we are, in the material world, it's about, okay, if somebody else goes down, then I go higher. But among devotees, it's the opposite. We want to push other people higher. And in that way, we are glorified, the devotees are glorified. But the mood is not to pull other people down to go higher, but rather to push other people up to go higher. It's kind of like an anti-gravity law, you push somebody up, you will actually go higher yourself. So that's the mood of Prahlad Maharaj. That's the mood of all of our acharyas. That's the mood of Srila Prabhupada, and that's the mood that would please Srila Prabhupada. Again, the idea of cooperation. What Srila Prabhupada said at the end in his final days, that what will really please me is how well you cooperate with each other. So if you think about it, it's just such a beautiful vision where devotees are not seeking credit, but rather, and they're not easily offended, rather they are glorifying others, appreciating others. And in this way, that a small offense just gets absorbed and just gets forgotten. And the other devotee also responds and, appreciates the devotee. And in this way, there's just such a nice reciprocation. It takes strength, of course, we need to cultivate it. But that, once we start that cycle, it's very nice, and it's a very positive thing. Okay, so yeah, and other examples are also there. There is the example of Narottam Das Thakur, and does anybody know who was the thickest friend of Narottam Das Thakur?
Srinivasacharya?
Very close, Prabhu, very close. Srinivasacharya and he were close. Shamananda Pandit, all three of them, and Srinivasacharya and he particularly. But he regarded Srinivasacharya as kind of senior, because he was a little senior to him. Yeah, even though they were both Shiksha disciples of Jiva Goswami.
Yeah.
But there is one, and you're close, so that's a hint, who's very dear friend of Narottam Das Thakur.
Not in these three.
No, but he's connected.
Srinivasacharya, Shyamanand Pandit, and Narottam Das.
He was a poet.
Okay.
Ishwari Radha, you have your hand raised.
Am I allowed to answer?
Of course.
Yes, and coincidentally, the answer will be okay. Yes, you say
The same answer, same name, different devotee.
exactly.
So it's in that song, right? In that bhajan, it's Ramachandra Sangha Mange Narottama Dasa. So Ramchandra Kaviraj.
Yes, that's correct. Ramachandra Kaviraj. So and I believe he was the brother of Govinda Kaviraj, if I'm not mistaken, who's written that bhajan, Bhaja Hure Mana Shri Nandanandana. I believe so. But yeah, Ramachandra Kaviraj, he was a disciple of Srinivasacharya actually. So that's the connection. And Ramachandra Sangha Mage Narottam Das, such a beautiful, heart-wrenching line, he's feeling separation from, he's begging for the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then Nityananda Prabhu, then Advait Goshai, then the Goswamis, and Swarup Damodar Prabhu. And then in the end, he begs the association of his dearmost friend, Ramachandra Kaviraj, Ramachandra Sangha Mage Narottama Das. And so you can feel that mood of intense connection, intense longing and desire for Sadhu Sangha. And that's the beauty of Sadhu Sangha. And so Sadhu Sangha is kind of like the battery that gives meaning to all the other items, all the other processes of devotional service. If you take the batteries out of like this computer, right? If the battery wasn't charged, then this whole presentation would go away. No matter how long one works on a presentation, no matter what software one is using, no matter what one's computer's configurations are, if the charger is not plugged in, then it's all gone, right? What is the use? It won't work. So same thing, Sadhu Sangha is like the battery that really charges our Krishna consciousness. and everything, then our chanting becomes more relishable, then our reading and hearing becomes more relishable. And I don't mean just physically. Of course, physically, if we are in association of devotees, we relish it much more. But over a period of time also, if we are in devotee association and we hear Bhagavatam on our own, then that's more relishable if we hear Bhagavatam on our own, having been out of devotee association. Because we carry that effect in our hearts. We carry that. We immediately connect to devotees in our hearts and minds when we hear something. It's all in the context of sadhu sangha. And so it's really essential. It is the most essential thing in Krishna consciousness, and that's not my opinion. That's the opinion of the Vaishnavacharyas and the senior devotees. That sadhu sangha of these 5 items can be stated to be the most important. Okay, so having talked about the glories of sadhu sangha, now let's talk about Nam Kirtan. So Nam Kirtan, or congregational chanting of the holy names, was exhibited by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in many different ways. But it started with very confidential kirtans, who knows where. And I know you can see the answer, but you can still say, because you can say more. I haven't said everything there.
Srivasangan.
Srivasangan. Yeah, exactly. In the courtyard of the house of Srivas Thakur. And what would be the nature of these kirtans? Would anybody like to say? As compared to the congregational chanting as compared to the mass chanting in the town of Navadvip. Like imagine like Chand Kazi and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu doing kirtan in the streets and then marching with all the devotees. And so how was this kirtan, this initial kirtan, in comparison to that one?
Based on what I recollect, I think it was very maddening. It is almost compared to the womb of the whole Sankirtan movement. They were just waiting to explode it out to get out on the streets. And, every devotee was bumping into each other, and even with Mahaprabhu. That's what I remember.
Yeah. Wonderful, Prabhu. Wonderful. Very nice. You've painted a very nice vision. Yes, that's right. Anybody else would like to add to Prabhu's answer?
Yeah,
Would
they
they
were
also
confidential and intimate,
Hmm.
only for the for the inner circle of devotees.
Exactly. Yeah, they were not everyone was invited. Only those who were like the most intimate and confidential associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they were in this kirtan. And one becomes intimate and confidential, of course, by one's own dedication and love. It's not that Mahaprabhu marked somebody as special, but it's by their own qualification, by their own surrender, uh, by their own sharanagati, or taking shelter of the Lord, they became confidential. And and they would dance all night. And these kirtans, they would relish the most intense, ecstatic mellows of devotional service. In fact, once a very interesting and unusual incident happened in this kirtan. Does anybody know what that incident was? Okay, Ramkatha Prabhu.
That a brahmachari wants to participate in that, and he will secretly viewing.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. Yes, that's also true. I wasn't thinking of that one. The brahmachari who would eat only rice or drink only milk. Yeah, drink only milk, maybe something like that. He secretly snuck into the kirtan, and the devotees were trying to hide him, but Mahaprabhu noticed him. That's a nice one. What I'm thinking about is something that is like contrary to the mood of kirtan. Something that is very you can say like rasa bhas in a way, contrary to the mood of kirtan. You can think.
I can
Passing
speculate
of
that.
Mhm.
Go ahead, Prabhu.
Yeah, the passing of the son of uh, श्रीवासाचे
Yes, Ratneshok, thank you.
Kirtan.
Yes, exactly. So his one of the sons of Srivas Thakur had intense fever, and he died. He left his body during the kirtan, during one of these confidential, ecstatic, joyous kirtans. And the ladies in the home, of course, as is natural, they were crying. They started crying at the loss of their son, brother, relative. And hearing this commotion, Srivas Thakur went into the bedroom and he asked what happened. And he was told that his son has died. And this is something that, of course, we cannot imitate, but it just shows us the absorption of Srivas Thakur and his transcendental mood beyond the modes of material nature. He basically he instructed. His first priority was, who knows what his first priority was?
Serving devotees.
Serving devotees, and specifically in this case, what was his first priority at this moment?
Mahaprabhu's kirtan should not be disturbed.
Exactly, perfect. Mahaprabhu's kirtan should not be disturbed. And so he immediately instructed. He didn't even, express anything verbally about his son. He instructed the devotees in the house who were crying to not disturb, to stop crying, because the crying would disturb Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his kirtan, and he did not want his ecstatic feelings to be disturbed. So, because of wanting Mahaprabhu's pleasure over and above everything else, he did not. He requested the ladies to not make their sounds audible to Mahaprabhu, the sound of their crying, because that would disturb Mahaprabhu's inner mood of intense separation from Krishna. Because remember, he's in the mood of Sri Radha, and he's feeling intense separation from Krishna. And and that is something, like I said, not to be imitated, but that shows Srivas Thakur's complete surrender. And of course, it's a fact that, if we water the root of the tree, then all the other leaves and branches are automatically nourished. And so if we keep Krishna in the center as our first priority, then everything else works out. So Mahaprabhu noticed something was wrong, and Srivas Thakur tried to keep saying, no, Mahaprabhu, nothing is wrong, everything is fine. But Mahaprabhu, of course, being the Supreme Lord, he knew something was wrong. And of course, if he was completely acting as a Supreme Lord, he would. But anyway, he knew something was wrong, and he asked, and then basically he was told that Srivas Thakur's son has passed away. And so Mahaprabhu brought him back to life, and he asked him, where did you go? And he said, the son started talking, and he said, I've gone to a better destination serving Krishna. And and then he left, and it was glorious. And everybody was happy because the son of Srivas Thakur had achieved a very high destination by the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. If you receive the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, what more can you ask for? So so this was the intense mood of absorption in the kirtan. This was the magic of the holy name. This was the the ecstasy that all the devotees were feeling, and this is accessible to all of us. Of course, it feels like a very distant thing for us right now, but all we have to do is simply take shelter of devotees and follow in the footsteps of the devotees of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And in doing so, we will ultimately be blessed by the love of God, by the mercy of of devotees, mercy of Mahatmas. And in this way, we can also feel the full mercy of the holy name. So right now, we might feel that the mercy of the holy name is not so accessible to us. But if we keep serving and pleasing devotees, starting with our spiritual guides, spiritual teachers, and trying to chant the holy name with attention, trying to please the holy name by telling others about the holy name, then our success in spiritual life is guaranteed. So there's one story about the power of the holy name. It has to do with Srila Haridas Thakur. And this shows how the holy name is so powerful that it can protect us from all material distractions, temptations. And so Srila Haridas Thakur, there was one person in Navadvip who was very envious of, I didn't plan it this way. Okay, who knows what the name of that person was who was envious of Haridas Thakur? I mean, you can guess by now. Okay, Kishore Radha.
Was it Ramachandra Khan?
Yes, that's right. I don't know, dear devotees, I don't know what I really didn't plan for this to happen, but somehow or other, this name has figured 3 times now. Ramachandra Khan was a person who was envious of the popularity of Haridas Thakur. He was envious of the I mean the prestige that Haridas Thakur had, and he was envious of basically his what do you say, his piety, and he sent a prostitute to basically cause Srila Haridas Thakur to fall down. And
is he the same person as Ramchandra Puri or is it different?
It's a different person. Different person. Yeah, yeah. So Ramachandra Puri was the generation of Madhavendra Puri, and his disciple is Ishwar Puri, and his disciple is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Haridas Thakur was on the planet even before Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I mean, he was on the planet a little before Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Little before, yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, somehow, so he sent this prostitute. Her name, I believe, was Lakhahira or Lakshahira, and it is said that she was actually none other than. Some of you may know this. Do you know who she was? What her identity was? She was not an ordinary lady.
Mother Parvati.
Yes, she was Maya Devi personified. She was Maya Devi personified. And so you can imagine, like, all the temptations of this world condensed into the form of one lady who has come to allure somebody. That was this so-called prostitute, Lakshahira, who went to disturb the composure of Srila Haridas Thakur. And she tried to disturb him, of course. She tried to entice him. Come, Haridas Thakur, come, let's enjoy together. I've been desiring you so much. I've been really longing for you. You're so attractive. And so this is Maya Devi herself working all the charms that material nature has to offer. We are distracted by so many things. If we are not distracted, somebody who's renounced the opposite sex still has distractions within this material world. But this is that source of all, even such distractions, like mystic siddhis or whatever. Maya Devi herself, she is personifying herself as all temptation and coming to distract Haridas Thakur. And what happens? He says, oh, but okay, kindly come, please sit down. And he's chanting in front of Tulsi Devi. Tulsi plant is there, and he's chanting. And he is saying that I have not finished my vow of chanting. So please sit till I finish my round. So he started chanting, and day turned into night. And he said, oh, I've still not finished. Can you please come tomorrow? Then she came the next day, and he was still chanting. He chanted the whole day, and she was waiting for him. And he said, oh, please forgive me. I'm sorry. I still haven't completed my vow. Please come tomorrow. And by this time, a little transformation was coming in the heart of the prostitute also. So by the end of the 3rd day, Srila Haridas Thakur again chanted for the whole day. And at this time, she became transformed. She recognized him as a saint. She paid her obeisances to him. She surrendered to him and asked him what she should do. And he said, basically, you should take up solitary bhajan in a hut and chant in front of Tulsi Devi. And in this way, she was delivered. And she would constantly chant the holy name by the mercy of a Mahatma, by the mercy of by mercy of a sadhu, Srila Haridas Thakur. So this is the power of the holy name that we can all eventually access. What it takes is the mercy of a devotee who has taste for that holy name. So Nam Kirtan. Okay. So Bhagavad Shravan. So I'll wrap up in the next 5, because these are not as long, in the next 5 minutes, and then we can have some discussion. So Bhagavad Shravan, this is the story of Gadadhar Pandit that I'll share. Srila Gadadhar Pandit was the personification of the pleasure potency of Sri Krishna. So he's basically Srimati Radharani, coming along with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He's the personification of the mood of Srimati Radharani. And he's in a submissive mood, specifically in Gaur Leela. He is like in Dwarka, Krishna's queen Rukmini is in a submissive mood. So Gadadhar Pandit is in a submissive mood. And he was known, he would give so much pleasure to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by his recitation of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would personally come to hear Srimad Bhagavatam from him in the Tota Gopinath temple, which is still there outside of Puri. And his Srimad Bhagavatam, Gadadhar Pandit Srimad Bhagavatam, was practically in not illegible, because the ink had been washed away by his tears. He would go into so much ecstasy while chanting the Bhagavatam. And Mahaprabhu would ask him to recite the Bhagavatam for him. And every time he would recite it, he would break into tears. And this Bhagavad Shravan is, of course, fundamental to our practice. Shravanam is the activity with which everything else in devotional service begins. It all starts with Shravanam, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. And when we hear particularly from realized devotees, from advanced devotees, that is particularly useful. And, we are all fortunate to have the opportunity to regularly hear from senior devotees in our community. And and it is something that is foundational for our devotional life. So following the footsteps of Gadadhar Pandit, we should develop attraction for the words of Srimad Bhagavatam. Serving the deity, there is a story of Raghunandan Thakur when he was a little boy. So Raghunandan is the son of Mukunda. And there's a story where, so they had a deity called Gopinath in their home. And when he was 5 years old, his father Mukunda asked him to make an offering to the deity. So he offered something to the deity. And then he saw that, he said, please, Krishna, please eat. And then he was an innocent boy, and he saw that, the bhoga plate was left apparently as it is. The Lord did not eat the offering. The offering was still lying there. And so he started crying. He said, my Lord, my father has instructed me to offer this to you. So kindly eat. If you don't eat, my father will be angry. Please eat this. So seeing the innocent, intense desire of his pure young devotee, Raghunandan, the Lord actually ate the offering, and it was gone. There was no prasadam left. And so when his father came, he asked, did you do the offering? He said, yes, father, just like you said I did. So he's like, where's the prasadam? He's like, what prasadam? You asked me to feed this laddu to the Lord, and I fed it to him, and he ate it. And Mukunda was a little bewildered. He's like, this boy does not lie, but this is very puzzling. I wonder what is happening. So he instructed him to do the same thing again on another day. And Raghunandan made the offering. But this time Mukunda, he had pretended to go out of the house, but he came back in just to witness what was happening. And it is said by some devotees that when the Lord saw Mukunda, so Raghunandan offered to him laddu, and the Lord picked up the laddu and started eating it. He took one bite from the laddu. But then Mukunda was right outside the door observing. And when the Lord noticed that Mukunda is there, he stopped eating. And so that half-eaten laddu was there. And Mukunda realized that his son is actually a great devotee. And it is said that even today, devotees can see that half laddu in the hands of the Gopinath deity of Mukunda. And so, and so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked Mukunda once later, who is the son, Raghunandan? Who is the son? Who is the father among the two of you? And Mukunda said, Raghunandan is the father and I am the son. He is my father because he's taught me about devotional service. He's instructed me in devotional service through this pastime. So here's a depiction of that pastime. Here's Mukunda standing outside the door. Here is Krishna eating. Here is little Raghunandan doing the offering. And finally, Mathura Vas. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu lived in Mathura, not specifically in Mathura, but in Jagannath Puri. He lived there in his Antilila. He took sannyas at the age of 24, and then he left this world at the age of 48. So the last 24 years of his life were sannyas years. The first 6 years he toured all around India. He went to South India, and the next, and shared his mercy with anyone and everyone he met there. And the next 18 years were spent in Jagannath Puri. The first 6 of those 18 years were spent interacting with devotees, talking with them, instructing them, joking with them. And the last 12 years was spent in solitary bhajan in the Gambhira with only confidential associates, where he showed ecstatic symptoms of separation from Krishna in the mood of Sri Radha. And that was, so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed the example of Mathura Vas, how to be absorbed in bhajan, how to live in a holy place. And yeah, whether he was interacting with devotees or absorbed in bhajan, he physically lived in Jagannath Puri the last 18 years of his life. And Srila Prabhupada instructed all of us to, relish Vrindavan, to live in Vrindavan as much as possible. He said the neophyte should not live for too long in Vrindavan, but at the same time, he also advised us to relish Krishna consciousness in Vrindavan, to try to get absorbed in Vrindavan, because it's a special place when we go there. Any Vrindavan, Mayapur, Jagannath Puri, any dham, we feel a transformative energy there. So we can feel Krishna. We may not be able to see Krishna, but we can feel the mercy of Krishna and his devotees still. And as we advance, then it is explained by the acharyas, then we can actually see the aprakat leela. We can see the pastimes that are still going on in these places by Krishna and his devotees themselves, like really tangibly going on in an unmanifest form. So that's Mathura Vas. So I'll end with this story. Once Giriraj Maharaj asked Gaur Govind Maharaj, he said basically, of the 5 items, I really like Mathura Vas. And Gaur Govind Maharaj, Giriraj Maharaj describes this with a lot of love. He looked at him and he said, Kamsa also lived in Mathura. So meaning that Mathura Vas is not just about physically living in Mathura or Vrindavan, it's about developing the consciousness. Vrindavan is a state of consciousness, as our acharyas tell us. And so we should try to make our home into a temple. We should try to have that consciousness of always trying to serve Krishna to the best of our ability. And that consciousness is Vrindavan. When we interact with senior devotees, we might feel something very special in their hearts. That special feeling, that special energy that is not of this world. Why is that? That's basically because they are carrying Vrindavan in their hearts. We may all have heard this line, right? Pure devotees carry Vrindavan in their hearts. So because they carry Vrindavan in their hearts, that is, you can say that is a reason we feel that special energy from these devotees, because their heart is so special. It's the dham itself. They're carrying Vrindavan in their hearts. So no wonder we feel uplifted and enlivened when we associate with these pure souls. So yeah, Mathura Vas doesn't mean that we have to. Of course, it's very good if we can go and live in Vrindavan and absorb ourselves in Krishna consciousness there, or Navdvip, Mayapur, Jagannath Puri, any place of pastime. But we can also make our home into a temple. and we can visit our nearby temples as much as possible, and the community of devotees as much as possible. So, in summary, we talked about 6 items, starting with dedicating oneself to a spiritual master. Then we spoke about associating with devotees, sadhu sangha. We spoke about Nam Kirtan. We spoke about Bhagavad Shravan. And then we spoke about serving the deity. And then finally, we spoke about Mathura Vas, taking examples from Gaur Leela, hopefully trying to connect us better to each of these processes and perhaps inspiring us to go deeper into these processes. Because these are the 5 more, by the mercy of the first item, taking shelter of the spiritual master, these 5 are the most potent items, most important items in devotional service. So, yeah, thank you, Prabhus. Sorry, I think it was a little bit long. I apologize. But if you have any comments or any thoughts to share, we can do that now. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Danvat Pranam. Such a nice and wonderful rendition and the picture that you painted of Mahaprabhu with so much of pastimes and teachings and learnings. We were really absorbed. And you said it's long, but I wish it was longer. That's all I could say. And yeah, I was also thinking if you ask another question, I'll just raise my hand and say Ramachandra, and I'm sure that answer would be right.
Yeah, that was funny. Krishna is, yeah, it's very interesting.
No, I think thank you so much. This was really overwhelming and for me, and really enjoyed the class. Just a small question, Prabhuji. The Puri sort of dynasty, so to say. You explained about Madhavendra Puri, Ishwar Puri, and then Ramachandra Puri. I'm more curious to know about the title Puri. What's the relevance of that?
Yes. Thank you, first of all, for your kind words, Prabhu. Yeah, I'm simply basically sharing what I've heard from different devotees. So thank you so much for listening and so attentively. Thank you for your kind words. Yes, Prabhu, I think, so my understanding is that Puri is basically a title that's given to an advanced devotee. Like, it's also the name given to a holy place like Jagannath Puri, and so forth, Dwarka Puri. So similarly, various devotees are also given that title: Madhavendra Puri, Ishwar Puri. There was Brahmananda Puri, and yeah, there are many others that I cannot think of right now. But that's my understanding, that it's an honorific title given to a sadhu, a devotee. But if anybody else knows more, please feel free to add. Kishori Radha?
I remember that where Srila Prabhupada describes Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taking sannyas, and because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took sannyas from, from a not a Gaudiya sort of sampradaya, right? Like he took sannyas
Brahmananda
from a
Bharati.
Brahmananda Bharati. So I think in that part of the CC, Srila Prabhupada describes I think the 4 main titles, which are Puri, Tirtha, Saraswati, and Bharati. So I think those were because his Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's spiritual master's name was Keshav Bharati. So that's what I
Right.
vaguely remember. Prabhu, maybe we can reference that section of CC.
Right. And do you remember, is it like progressive? Is Bharati the highest one? Or what was it like?
I think there are others. I think it depends. I read this somewhere and I'll have to look at the
Okay.
source.
Okay.
But Saraswati is one who is very learned, like Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, Tirtha is one who lives near a sacred place. Puri is one who might live in a town and preach in a town. And Bharati, I remember, is one who's free from bondage. So there were these different names, and I'll have to look at the source. So please don't take my word for it. I will have to do some research.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, Keshav Bharati, that's right. Keshav Bharati was the sannyas guru of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who was secretly a devotee, but he was in the Mayavadi line, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took sannyas in that line because that was the most prominent line at that time. But he was secretly a devotee, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually initiated him by telling him the sannyas mantra in his ear before he got initiated by Keshav Bharati. Keshav Bharati actually wanted to run away when Mahaprabhu asked him to give him initiation. He's like, he knew this is the Supreme Lord, and such an effulgent sannyasi, and I'm not qualified. And then in his heart, of course, he knew he realized this is the Supreme Lord. And then he wanted to run away, but Mahaprabhu caught him and whispered the sannyas mantra in his ear, which he whispered back to him. And in this way, there was no offense, according to Keshav Bharati. And Mahaprabhu got initiated in this line, in the impersonal tradition. So, yeah, thank you for that question, Prabhu. Did anybody else have any comments, thoughts?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Beautiful class. So it's almost like a training hearing from you. So amazing that because I'm also next in line to present. So I was thinking, how gracefully you are presenting. So amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, so thoroughly enjoyed, and you involved us with so much ease. At times I was feeling थोड़ा ज़्यादा बात कर रहा हूँ, but still.
Not at all. Not at all.
Yeah, but thoroughly enjoyed your class. Not having so many questions or any questions as such, but the examples that you gave, that the pastime of deity worship of Raghunandan, yeah, so that was very heart touching. And you mentioned that the deity Gopinath is still existing. So may I know where that location or something like that, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu. So there are two Gopinaths actually that I mentioned. One is Tota Gopinath, which is the deity of Gadadhar Pandit. So that is existing, I think maybe it's like 10 kilometers or 20 kilometers outside of Jagannath Puri. It's very close to Jagannath Puri. And that deity is in a sitting form because to accept the offerings of Gadadhar Pandit, the deity sat down because Gadadhar Pandit was physically was facing some challenges. So that is one Gopinath. And that deity is still there in the Tota Gopinath temple. This Gopinath that I referred to was the deity of Mukunda, devotee of Mahaprabhu. And this was his home deity. And I believe, so his home was in Navadvip, and I believe that the deity is still present, but I am not aware. Maybe Google search may reveal like where this Gopinath deity might be exactly in Bengal. But go ahead, Prabhu. You had something else to say.
No. I was about to ask that where is it in Bengal or in Orissa?
Yeah, somewhere in Navadvip, but
Sure.
the home of Sri Mukunda, and I don't. Maybe Rashmi knows. I don't know. Her son's name is Mukunda, so.
You give her a test.
No, I really don't know. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, the home, if the home is not preserved, at least I'm hoping the deity would be preserved, but we would have to search, Prabhu. Sorry, I don't know.
I'll check, Prabhu. And one more appreciation, Prabhu, is with respect to the presentation. Like, the slides are very simple. The picture is alone is enough to, trigger our emotions. So heart-touching pictures. And
Yeah. All glories to our early ISKCON painters who painted these pastimes so beautifully. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you. Yeah, I'm actually personally very aesthetically challenged. Like this is a fact. I'm not saying this, for any other reason. It's a fact. I'm aesthetically very challenged. So it's nice that these pictures can cover up, and PowerPoint has some themes that can cover up my inability in that regard. But thank you for your appreciation, Prabhu. Thank you.
My appreciation is also coming up with a seeking of help. In Mataji's class, I already raised my hand for help. So
Yeah, maybe she's the better person to ask for such things.
don't be so humble. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you.
Prabhu, that's an excellent way of admitting humility and volunteering me.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You've several times brought up this question of humility with the spouse, so I thought maybe we can complete the circle. So thank you, Ramkatha Prabhu. Padmini Radha Mataji, I think you have a question.
Yeah. Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you so much for such a lovely talk. I don't have a question. I was just reflecting on, when you were talking about Srivas Acharya and Srivas Thakur, sorry, and, the passing away of his son and
Yeah.
those feelings. I was just, it's just so uh, even hard to understand that.
Yes.
Right? Because I was just thinking that I just recalled the fact that we are just so pained by our own sufferings and even like the slightest of the pain. I remember some time back I was having a toothache very bad. It was probably a year or so back, and I eventually got it fixed. It was a root canal, and they eventually showed me so they ended up cutting the nerve, and they pulled out the nerve and they showed me the nerve, and the nerve was like a piece of your eyelash. And I was thinking about it, that something as small as that can be so painful to you and your body, because we are so in this conception of the body, right? So when I hear these pastimes, I'm just amazed as to what level of consciousness these personalities would have, that even when you even a loss of your child, you're not worried about trying to express that grief, but trying to still please the Lord, and ensuring that the service that the Lord is doing, you're not trying to uh, uh, I guess disturb that service. So it's very beautiful, but at the same time it's very something that it's just you cannot relate. I mean, I cannot relate to it personally,
Yeah.
for sure. I just wanted to share that realization, and I guess maybe then in that connection, I have a question to you. Um, is to how do we appreciate these pastimes, Prabhu, and what should be a, a lesson for us from these pastimes? Maybe something, if you could speak on that lines.
Yes. Thank you, Mataji. Thank you for that really, really important and really wonderful question. Actually, I was hoping that, you know, the process of spiritual discussions is that if something is left out in the main lecture, by Krishna's mercy, it usually comes out later on. And so I'm really thankful that you brought this up, because it's a very important point. It centers on our humanity as devotees, because devotees are not robotic. Devotees are not just, like, yeah, like uh, working like, cookie cutter sadhakas. You have to do X, you have to do Y, you have to do Z. That's not what a devotee is. Devotee is very human, and we are supposed to have all the feelings that normal people do, except even more deep and more rich. And so how is it that sometimes in past times we see things that seem to kind of deny our humanity, that seem to deny our basic our basic feelings. And so I'll say that, you know so I'll start off by saying that Arjun, when Abhimanyu died on the battlefield, he had already heard the Bhagavad Gita by then, but he was piteously crying at the loss of his son. He was like inconsolably crying. And it's natural, it's very natural. But Arjun, at the same time, we know was a pure devotee, because he had already heard the Bhagavad Gita and he had already surrendered to Krishna. He'd already told him, I accept you, accept whatever you have told me as truth, and I'm prepared to act according to your instructions. And so how was Arjuna a pure devotee if he was still apparently attached to his son? So that would be the first question that we can start with. And Srila Prabhupada explains that Arjun was a pure devotee because he didn't let his service be interrupted by the loss of his son. He didn't say, now I'll just mourn for the rest of the day and not fight anymore, or the next day I shall not fight anymore. Of course, yeah, that day he'd reached late, but he didn't say, I'm not going to fight anymore. No, next day he was ready to battle again, according to Krishna's instructions. And so Srila Prabhupada said that's what makes a devotee pure, a pure devotee, that he followed all the instructions of Krishna, or in our case, the spiritual master, to the best of our ability. Given our situation, given our limitations, given our circumstances, we are still trying to please Krishna to the best of our ability. So it is context dependent. It is context dependent. What is a pure devotee is context dependent. If we are a neophyte, then being a pure devotee would not be the same as being an uttamadhikari and being a pure devotee. So it means that our goal is to please Krishna. Our final goal is to please Krishna, and we work to the best of our ability in our life and organize our life for that goal, basically. So yeah, in that moment, that's the best. Arjun had to cry because it was his son, and he's not unfeeling, he's not callous, so he had to cry. On the other hand, Srivas Thakur did not cry. Srivas Thakur did not cry. His son was dead, his wife was crying, his other relatives were crying, but he did not even externally bat an eye. What he was feeling internally, we do not know. He appeared as a householder. He of course, he was maintaining his household, his family. He had affection, no doubt. He had kinship and affection, but so we don't know what he was feeling. But externally, he was such an advanced devotee, and he had such intense connection to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and such intense dedication that he did not show it externally. So I guess, so the modes of material nature. So ultimately, even our family ties, all the relationships, ultimately, not for our context, but ultimately, they are in the modes of material nature. And we, we cannot wish them away. Rather, we can spiritualize our relationships. So we have all these relationships. Of course, I feel a certain way towards my wife. I feel a certain way towards my son. It's not that I feel towards my wife, I feel as I would towards my brother. No, it's a different bodily context. It's a different relationship. With my son, or if I had a daughter, it would be different. So that is there. It's undeniable. But that can be spiritualized. Like, we can make it more and more spiritual until ultimately we can reach a level by Mahaprabhu's mercy, where even externally that is not shown in the mundane way. But at the same time, it's context dependent. Like Arjun, he cried at the loss of Abhimanyu. So, and Arjun was an Uttamadhikari, no doubt, right? So it is context dependent also. He was an Uttamadhikari, but he was in this world playing the part of a Kshatriya, and he still cried, but at the same time he was fully surrendered to Krishna. So it depends case to case. But yeah, the intense ecstasy of Srivas Thakur was such that he did not care about that particular he did not care about that particular change in his family situation, because he was just so above the modes of material
Beyond,
nature.
yeah.
He was just so above the modes of material nature in his mood. He did not care. Of course, later we don't know what he might be feeling. But yeah, at that time he did not show it. So he was not being unfeeling, rather he was being he was trans feeling. He was trans feeling. He transcended through this process of, spiritualizing that we would go through. He had reached a level where he had just transcended all context of modes of material nature. So
Thank you so much,
that's
Prabhu.
what I would say.
That was very helpful.
But yeah,
Thank you.
a more senior devotee might have more things to say on that, in that regard. Well, I'll say one thing, that Srila Prabhupada himself, we know that He's a Nitya Siddha. He's come from the spiritual world. He's sometimes saw people in a suffering situation and he would feel compassion for them. Like in Juhu, when he saw some devotees, not devotees actually, some people waiting for a bus at the bus stop, and there was no roof on the bus stop. And in Bombay, you're from Mumbai, and you know how it can get really hot.
Mm.
So these people were standing at the bus stop, and the sun was beating on their heads, and they were sweating, and Prabhupada was going in a car, and he looked at them, and he said with such compassion, see how these people are suffering. They have to stand out in the sun, in the hot sun, waiting for the bus to come. And we should build a bus stop here with a proper shelter. And so now we have the Juhu bus stop, and it's facilitating people to visit the temple, and so forth. So pure devotee like Srila Prabhupada also feels this compassion, but he dovetails it with Krishna's service.
Right.
So that's I think how we should proceed also. Yeah, we don't deny our material connections and ties, but we should spiritualize them. We should dovetail them. We should engage them in the service of Krishna as much
Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Thank you for that question, Mataji. Very
Hare
important.
Krishna. Thank you.
Karnavdar, I was wondering if you could share that one pastime that happened in Australia where some building caught on fire and devotees helped or rescued people, and Srila Prabhupada said something about compassion and criticism. There's something like that, right? Do you remember that?
Vaguely, but I'm not remembering.
Okay.
Old age is coming. Yes.
The reason I was connecting that to Padmini Radha's question is Srila Prabhupada said something about like we should help the people in general. Loka Vichar, something about Loka
Oh yeah,
Vichar.
I do remember.
It may not be. Yeah.
Yeah, Loka Vichar is basically, we keep up with material traditions, only, that are otherwise purely material. They have nothing to do with Krishna's service, but we do them so that other people will not have an unfavorable impression of Krishna consciousness. So this is actually taking Padmini Radha Mataji's question from the other side. Now, what about material ties or material obligations that we really are not connected to Krishna, and they're not even so important to our heart, but should we do them? Like, for example, we attend a ceremony, a religious ceremony that is not connected to Krishna, of a close friend, hosted by a close friend. Karanavita, give me a few minutes. A religious ceremony hosted by a close friend. And should we attend it? Well, if we don't attend it, if we don't attend it, then people may criticize, oh, look, such and such is a devotee of Krishna, and they don't even care about, social obligations or basic social etiquette. He's not even going through such an important ceremony of his friend, or he's not going to the funeral of a distant cousin, or so much. It depends on the context, of course. But a devotee would not usually attend to a social obligation that has no connection with Krishna. They would rather use their time to serve Krishna. But if we don't go, then people may criticize. So for that reason, we should go and do it. So that's what Loka Vichar means. That is explained, I believe, by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. But Srila Prabhupada did say that, for example, if there is somebody who's favorable to Krishna consciousness already, and they invite us for whatever reason, a material gathering, so to speak, but we go there because we care about that relationship. That's very important. And so it's not a material obligation anymore, even though on the surface it is, socially speaking, it is a material thing. But for us, it's not, because we already have a relationship with this person who is favorable to Krishna. So we should definitely fan that relationship according to the context and the needs of the situation. Yeah, I mean, what to speak of dovetailing in this way? Srila Prabhupada, even once in his bhajan kutir, there was a little a cockroach, I believe. And Srila Prabhupada told his disciple, just look at him. He was running here and there in search of food. And Srila Prabhupada said, just look at him. He's hungry. Pick him up, give him some prasadam, and put him on a branch of a tree. Um, uh, yeah, I think it was a cockroach. I might be missing some small detail, but that was generally, said, give him prasadam, put him on a tree. And so, yeah, was Srila Prabhupada feeling compassion at one level, at the level of the body, so to speak, because it's a living entity suffering for food? Sure. Srila Prabhupada, seemed to be really concerned by the fact that this insect was hungry. But then he advised him to give him prasadam. So he connected him to Krishna, give him prasadam, and then give him shelter, put him in a natural habitat. So yeah, so connecting what Padmi Mataji said and what you are saying, pure devotee, it's very natural to have feelings on the material plane. We don't deny them, especially the deeper ones, but we should dovetail them with Krishna as much as possible. We should spiritualize them always, and there's no shame in admitting them. And but yeah, as far as possible, we should connect. If the context allows, we should connect them to Krishna. So thank you, Prabhus. I don't know if anybody has any last comments.
Just a thought, Prabhu.
Krishna Prabhu.
Okay, sure, we'll do both. Yes,
Thank you.
Prabhu, then Ram Katha.
Wonderful Dandavat Pranam. It was, as all devotees have mentioned, and what Rupa Raghunath Prabhu was mentioning, very endearing, very heartwarming class with so many pastimes. I was really riveted to your class. So thank you so much for keeping my perpetually distracted mind not distracted.
Thank you for your kind words, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna, Karnataka Prabhu. Thank you so much for a wonderful class. I really enjoyed, and all of your pastimes were so relishing. I don't have any questions, but just to appreciate you made this evening, I know, spiritual for me while I was a little bit cooking and helping in the kitchen. But thanks a lot. I really liked it.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much for your kind words. Thank you. Showing the perfect example of dovetailing. So we've been talking about that in the discussion. So yeah, thank you. Any last comments before we sign off from anybody regarding anything?
I just wanted to thank you, Prabhu. It was really relishing class and perfect mix of lot of pastimes. You took us through a complete journey of CC, and I really relished it, and I could definitely hear it for much longer. It was very engaging.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, Mataji. Thank you so much. Thank you.
I also like the word spiritualize a lot, Prabhu. You used it often in your class, and I think that's the theme, if we can spiritualize. I remember a japa retreat from Guru Maharaj, and he's like, this is spiritualizing your ear process, because that's where you hear it from. So if you hear your chanting, and then whatever else you hear, because you've spiritualized your ears, it will resonate. And
Perfect.
so I like that spiritualize word a lot.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Yeah, I need it more than anybody else, and so it's a good reminder for myself to keep keep trying to connect things to Krishna. Yeah, following Rupa Goswami and Srila Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you all for your kind attention, for your patience. Sorry it was a little bit longer, but thank you nevertheless for being kind about it. And have a wonderful, blissful, spiritualized evening. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Ramkatha Prabhu,
Thank
do
you
you
so
have
much.
anything to say?
Oh, Ramkatha Prabhu, I'm so sorry. You had something, Prabhu. I'm so sorry. Please go.
No, Prabhu. I thought maybe, yeah, that's okay. I was just, like when you mentioning about transcendent pain, right?
Yes.
So when it comes to themselves, how devotees transcend pain, like the example one time I heard about Srila Prabhupada is he has some tooth swollen kind of thing, like one of the side he was having that pain from quite some time.
Yeah.
He was giving lecture at one point. This
Mm.
is what I think I read somewhere. It's been a while when that tooth problem reminded me of that pastime of Prabhupada. So in between the lecture, like he called his servant and he took his teeth out and gave it to him and continued his lecture.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Wow,
So
I've not heard that one. Wow.
yeah.
Yeah, Srila Prabhupada is amazing. He
Yeah.
was dictating purports on his departing bed.
Oh,
With his last breaths, he was dictating purports to Srimad Bhagavatam. So yeah, that reminds me of
and,
that.
and it is so amazing. I was thinking, he can bear that much pain, but when somebody is standing under sun, like he could feel pain and he
Yeah.
want to have some shelter for them.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So it's not just mundane compassion. Yes, sure, it's on the level of body in one way, but it's not mundane because
It's not
he's really feeling how much they may be suffering due
right.
to the effect of the heat, even though he's suffering much more. So it's a very high level of compassion.
Some level of
He
compassion.
couldn't eat, and he was asking our devotees eating halwa, and when he was like skin and bones in his final days.
Oh,
So yeah, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Actually, we didn't get to speak about him that much in this class, so thank you for bringing up that example, Prabhu.
sure, Prabhu. Thank you so much. And Loka Vichar is a new word I heard first time. So thanks to you.
My better half, you can say.
Thank
Thank
you.
you all, Prabhus. Thank you so much.
Thank
Hare
you.
Thank
Krishna.
you so
Thank
much. Hare
Onwards.
Krishna, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Vandana
Kalpataru Kripasindhubhyo Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo.
Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki,
Jai.
Jai.
Prabhupada ki,
Jai.
Karnatar Prabhuji ki.
Jai.
Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai.
Yeah.
Hare
Hari
Krishna.
Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Hare Bol. Thank you so much.